The second principle is about repetition. We all know that if we repeat something, we learn better. But when should you repeat? How often should you repeat? And this whole experiment is about that. So, here we are talking of 3 sets of students. The first set was taught something and they were immediately asked to recite it back. The second set was taught the same thing, there was a little bit of gap given and then they were asked to recite it back. Whereas for the third set, they taught something, then they gave a long gap, they taught something else and then they asked the third set to repeat what has been taught. Now guess what happened? The first set, who was asked to repeat immediately, were the most productive. They remembered almost everything. The second set was also there, not as good as the first one, but they also remembered most of the stuff. Whereas set number 3 struggled. Some of them remembered certain other things, some of them were wondering really what happened. So, purely in terms of set 1, 2 and 3, one was a far better performer, set 2 was somewhere in the middle and set 3 did not seem to be doing that well. But what happened is the same set of students were again tested after several months. And now you suddenly found just the reversal of the performance. Set 3, students who had actually struggled but still remembered something, remembered everything. Set 1, very poor in terms of recollection. They hardly remembered anything. And as you would have guessed, set 2 performed somewhere in between. So, it is almost the same principle that repetition is good, but do not do it immediately because it helps probably the students too much. Whereas, if you let them struggle a bit, if you put in some gap, if you inundate their mind with something else and if then they are able to come back to what has been taught to them, then that sticks on to their mind lot more.